well, let's jump right into this. We're gonna jump right in this. We already know how you feel about Ferrari, so I think we could kind of like pack that up. Bam, bam, bam. Ferrari will be Ferrari. Ferrari gonna do Ferrari things, and they definitely did them this weekend. So I think that's pretty much is what it is. If you want to say something on that, you can. But I pretty much think that's how you feel about it.
I think talking about Ferraris is too repetitive, man.
Right.
It's wasted oxygen right there
Right.
and then, man. Because we thought the way the season started, we expected Ferrari would Mercedes won't be able to do anything because they didn't even bring grips to a fruit fight. They turned up empty-handed to that fruit fight this year. You know what I mean? So you thought, okay, maybe Ferrari can give them a challenge. Max had 2 DNFs early in the season.
Right.
Charles was 40 points ahead.
Right.
Now he's 100 and I don't know. I think he's 100 and Max is 113 points ahead of Perez.
God,
something like that.
Yeah, it's bro. He's maxing it out. I could tell you that.
Yeah. So Charles, I think Charles has moved back into second because he was only 5 points behind Perez and he finished third. And Perez
I got
finished.
You. So right now, Verstappen 310, Leclerc 201. So
310 to 201.
Yeah,
that's 109, dude. How do you go from being being 40 plus points ahead to being 109 points behind? That's 100.
That's like that. What was that? The 3-1 up, down.
Oh, that's the
Golden State on the Cavs.
Oh God! Oh, don't remind me of that, man. You go to season 73-9 and up 3-1 in the finals and get beat by the Cavs.
Right.
Oh, and then you had to go out and do what?
You had to go join up.
Nah, they went out and they recruited KD because
KD to join up.
I mean, they had to get KD because if it wasn't for KD, Brown would have won 3 straight with Cavs.
Yeah, he would have.
You know what I mean? Because had KD not turned up in Golden State, because they went to 3 straight finals, the Cavs.
Right.
So you know what I mean? But it's as a Ferrari fan, I'd be looking at that and I'd be asking for heads, man. I'd be asking for answers because that's not acceptable.
No.
That's 150 point swing in 10 races. 10 races. I'd say it's 10 races because Max DNF'd in 2 of the first 3 or 4 races.
Yeah.
So he DNF'd in Bahrain and Australia. Yeah. So that was 2 of the first 4 or 5 races.
Yep.
And you end up being 100. That's unacceptable.
That's
and then this weekend you pit Carlos and forgot that you actually need 4. You need 4 tires to actually go racing, not 3. Like
3.
I mean, do the math, man. Come on. Somebody should have known. Okay, we're missing a wheel. Where's
what are we doing?
Well, exactly. And the thing is, Binotto them might go around and say, I don't think we're having any issues. What happened was just, it's not like, how can it not be a problem? You guys have an issue nearly every race weekend. That's just handing Max a title. He's just driving away, waltzing off into the distance, unchallenged. Right. He's going to end the season. He's going to have the record for the most win in the season. It currently stands at 13 with Vettel in 2011 and Schumacher in 2002. It's going to, 13. So he's going to easily pass. He has 10 already?
Yeah, already.
10. And we still have 7 races left. And
I know you see the man. So listen, forget Ferrari. What about AlphaTauri?
That whole situation is suspect. And I think all of these F1 pundits and so on coming online trying to gaslight fans into thinking, well, why would they do this why would they risk all of this? And like, why did Renault did it in 2008? Why did Schumacher did it in 2006 in Monaco? Why
does anybody do it?
Exactly.
It happens
because they want to do it. They do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Did they do it on purpose? Or is it just a matter of just perfect timing coincidence? But when you look at the whole thing, it just seems like that's a bit dodgy. You know what I mean?
It
It
is.
just because
I mean, even the commentator said it when it was going on, like, this
yeah,
fishy. Like, what is going on?
yeah,
Bro, I
because you
got racing harnesses. I've been in racing harnesses for a long time. I got a set sitting right over there on my racing seat. I ain't never took that long to get those things strapped up to get tightened, bro. They not built that way.
It's not even so much that it took them that long to get his seatbelt tightened up. It's the fact that he crawled back to the pits. He was already a lap down. I think I was trying to find, there's this website I use that gives you lap time comparisons. So I wanted to see how long it took Yuki to get completed that lap, because I'm sure it took him at least maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 seconds more than he's normally should. And I believe it was already a lap down. So by the time he got to the pit and they did all of that, he was already 2 laps down and they send him back out. He was no longer, there was no longer a chance for him to score any points, because at the time the incident happened, he was actually behind Stroll in P11. Or is it, I think he was either ahead or behind. But okay, your chance of scoring points is gone. He came in and he said, look, there's something wrong. I feel like there's a tire issue here. And you did some checks. Okay, God, he's driving down the pit lane, report back the same problem. And you go, okay, pull up, go out the pits and then pull up somewhere safe. You already know the moment you tell him to leave the pits and pull up somewhere safe, it's going to trigger either a safety car, double or something. It's going to trigger something. They could have said to him, you know what? Stop at the end. Stop. Don't leave the pits. Stop at the end, because at the end of the pit lane, where
they got a truck down there, don't they?
No, they have a bay after the last pit box, the last team's box, which would be, who's the last team? Haas or Williams would be the last. That's where the safety car is parked up, because the safety car is parked inside the pit lane. So there must have been a space there where they could have said, you know what, pull over in there. And if he had done that, race direction would have more likely close the pit lane until that car is recovered and moved in a safe spot. Then you reopen the pit lanes. The track would have still been live, and you carry on as normal. So to say to him, leave the pits and then find somewhere safe to pull over and park, that's just like
suspect as hell.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem right, especially when you consider that at that point in time of the race, Lewis was the quickest man on the track. He was eating into that lead at like a half a second a lap. And I pointed out in one of my tweets this morning today that Vettel, when the VSC came out, the gap was 13 seconds to Max.
Right.
Lewis lost 3 seconds behind Vettel.
Shenanigans.
That's nonsense. So you're talking about he would have actually been 10 seconds behind Max when the VSC came out, or probably less than 10 seconds.
Right.
So it just like perfect timing for Max. It just like all the stars this year have aligned for him. Everything is just perfect. It's yours. You can't, just take it and go on. But the whole AlphaTauri, it just seems a bit like, come on, something's not right. And when you consider previous incidents, Spa only last week, Paul Di Resta suggested, why don't the two AlphaTauris take a penalty, move them out the way, and move Max further up the grid? Sunday morning,
what do we get?
What do we get? Oh, Pierre Gasly starting at the back of the grid. Boop, that's another space for Max. You're like, okay, you go back to even last year in Yuki, not just Yuki.
Last week, I think it was Yuki and Gasly.
Yeah. No, I'm saying going last year. If you go back to Qatar last year, when Max came up behind Gasly, they basically told him,
get the move on.
Yeah, you're not racing, Max, so just let him pass. And I'm like, okay, why? I mean, early in this, there's been other moments in the season where you guys aren't racing Lewis, and you didn't say like, yo, just move out of the way. So you see where there's a pattern there when it comes to AlphaTauri going up against Red Bull, which we all know is a sister team. Right. And this is where the problem is, and people have been saying that they shouldn't be allowed to own 2 teams in the same
4 cars on the grid.
Exactly. Right. And what that gives them not only influence on the track, it gives them influence off the track, because they know, right? if we vote for something, AlphaTauri has to vote for the same thing that we're voting for.
Right.
Even if it goes against their interests, you have to vote, you know, in our interest. So, and they've used that. Red Bull has used that many times before. They've threatened to leave the sport if things weren't, adjusted in certain ways that they would be favorable to them, because they've got, was it 4 teams out of 4 cars out of 20, so that they've got a fifth of the cars on the grid.
Right.
Or Red Bull own. You cannot afford to lose 2 teams from Formula One.
Right.
Even though we know they're basically bluffing and it's BS, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, that's the temper tantrum.
But the fact that they've got that power to say,
that
look,
leverage.
Yeah, it's to say, look, you don't do what we're going to cut. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why this whole, even the engine freeze up until 2026 came into place, because they have that superiority and that power leverage that they can wield and say, look, we don't have an engine, right? And if you don't do something, okay, we're going to take over the Honda power unit. We don't have an engine department. If we decide we're going to do this on our own, we cannot compete with the might of Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault in building and designing our own PU. So you have to give us some help here. So freeze the power units. If you freeze it, this is what we can do, and so on. So the whole thing yesterday kind of like, it wasn't good. And what makes it even worse is, and this is why it annoys me even more, when pundits and all these guys are saying, why would they do this and what? And I say, the problem is, you shouldn't be questioning fans and they're asking why. You should be understanding the reason why fans are doing this is because there's no longer any trust with the sport because of what happened in Abu Dhabi. So no, everything, even if it's a genuine coincidence and it genuinely happened, fans are going to be more suspicious because there was no transparency with what happened in Abu Dhabi. They came out and told us, basically, it's us, the fans, who are at fault because we don't understand what we're watching. We don't understand the regulations and all of that. So they blamed what happened in Abu Dhabi on us and our lack of understanding. And like, how can you blame us for something that the people who work for you did? We the fans know he did it wrong. We can read the regulations. It's clearly there. We've read his words. So there's that distrust there now. So every time something happens, even if it's not nefarious, you're gonna sit back and you're like,
that's
something, what I mean? So, but whether it was a genuine mistake or they did it on purpose, you can't blame us as fans for looking at it with an
odd eye.
Yeah, like, I don't know. That just seems
quite right.
Yeah, and you're talking, and the thing is, you have experienced racing drivers coming out. I saw a tweet from Sage Karam, who races in NASCAR. Like, that seems suspect. Like, so I'm thinking, so if you have experienced guys who are exactly, professionals coming out and say, how can you then turn around and say us as fans are being conspiracy theorists?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I saw, I read Scott Mitchell's article today about it, and he referenced that an unnamed team basically said, something seems suspicious about that whole AlphaTauri thing. So is everybody a conspiracy theorist?
Right.
You know what I mean? And not because, going back to what I said, you can't be saying, why would they do it? What would they have? Why would they not do it? If you're going to ask, why would they do it? Or why, you should also ask, why would they not do it? You know what I mean? I say that the usual F1 mouthpiece, Will Buxton, AlphaTauri is only 5 points behind. I think he said Haas or something like that. So why? And Yuki was the only one. Was the only one with a chance of scoring points. Why would they do it? I'm like, So there's 7 more races left in the season. So I'm sure that's 7 races where they can make up that 5-point difference. So what do you mean? Come on, dude. Stop
the shenanigans, bro.
Acting like you think us as fans, we're just going out here making noise like we're stupid. We're not stupid. We're just as intelligent and clued up on the sport as you guys who are in the paddock, yeah, you hear certain things from, you have access to the team principals and so on and all of that, and certain information, but we're smart enough. We've been watching this. It's not like we started watching yesterday. Many of us have been watching for the best part 20, 30 years. So we understand the running of the sport is. We understand the whole entire dynamics of the sport. So don't act like we're stupid. You know what I mean? So it's a messed up situation yesterday, and it didn't, and to just kind of like brush it aside as like, yeah, it was just, I don't think it was right, but you know what I mean, we're, as I say, we're just fans. We don't know shit. We're just stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean? We just
so stupid. I tell you what, we're gonna open the floor for the members to ask a question. Remember, you put your hand up, you can ask a question. If I don't see any hands put up, then me and Thanos just gonna keep chopping it up. But I'm pretty sure, based off the conversations that we had yesterday in the post-race after party. So yeah, boom, there we go. Musa in there. Musa, go ahead, unmute yourself, bro. You got the mic.
Thanks, Jeff. What's up, fam?
What's up, man? You good?
Good, bro. I just want to check with you, man. Like, obviously, on Sunday, I mean, I didn't even watch the complete racing because I was working, but I was just for the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking objectively about the whole situation with Mercedes. Yeah, I want our boy to win. 100%. I want our boy to win. I think Lewis should have been there, pushing some other things. But the W13 has just been a roller coaster ride for the longest part of this year. Mm-hmm. What I really want to ask you is that I was just pushing this notion up of I think that objectively, seeing that George is able to push with the car, maybe the team should work around helping or aiding him to get up there and see if he can at least get close to that world title, or gather as much points as possible. As long as we can get like a constructors, mm-hmm. I'd be happy. But if he can win the world title, then it would be a lot better, than us losing it to another team that just.
Which one of the titles are you talking about? Because the drivers is not a possibility. I don't even think the constructors is a possibility right now. I think that whole entire thing,
man,
they're both gone, man.
It's so tough. I mean, apart from the races, how many more? What other tracks are we left with besides the ones in the UAE?
We've got
how many? You talking about what races do we have left? We have
Monza left,
Singapore, Japan, of course, Texas, Dakota, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. And to me, the only track that may suit is Singapore, maybe.
You know what?
The thing,
I tell you what. If you look at the season overall, and if you look at it objectively, remove all biases and driver preference aside, well, I guess there's going to be a bit of bias in some ways. But if you look at performance-wise, Lewis has still been quicker than George. If you look at their performance, when they've competed in races where there's nothing affecting the overall outcome or performance of either driver on a weekend, Lewis has tended to be the better of the two. George has been the one that's benefited the most from safety cars in comparison to Lewis. You're talking about 3 of the podiums that he has now, Australia, Miami, and yesterday, were all as a result of him benefiting from a safety car.
Safety cars.
So, and in terms of, when you look at Mercedes' opportunity to win races, you tend to realize that Lewis has tended to be the one with the more likely in the races where they've shown they've got a kind of like a slim chance. Case in point, Hungary. Lewis was the one who basically looked like he could win that race. Yesterday, it was the same thing. I don't think Mercedes should say, oh, we're going to prioritize because George is ahead in the standings. We're going to prioritize George and maybe, try and get him further up the grid. No, I don't think they should do that, and I don't see them as doing that. I don't think the Mercedes, and I see a lot of people, having to go at Mercedes and saying some things, and I'm like, I don't think Mercedes are doing anything outwardly wrong, or they made mistakes. Most definitely, they've made some mistakes that they need to work on. That a team like them shouldn't be making at this stage of the season, or at this point in their history, they shouldn't be making. But I think the team is, the overall dynamics of the team is perfectly fine, and they should just keep it as it is. Let them go out their race. People don't like it. People think, Mercedes should be saying to George, you know what, you're going to be Lewis's understudy and just play second fiddle to him. I don't agree with that. And I don't think Lewis would have liked anything of that sort. You know what I mean? He has always presented himself as a sort of person whereby he wants his teammates to be treated exactly how you treat him. Give us the exact same equipment, and if you go out there, you beat me, you beat me. I have nothing to say about it. He's not going to say anything about that. He's just going to come back next time and say, okay, you beat me that time. I'm going to see to you don't beat me again. So let them compete fairly and evenly, which is what they've always done. Though yesterday, they went against their own policy. Because if you remember I think it was Portugal 2020, Bottas wanted to go on Lewis had already pitted, and I think Lewis went on the hard tires. And Bottas wanted to go on a different set of tires, and they said, no, you can't do that, because then you'd be gaining an unfair advantage on Lewis, who pitted before you. You know our policy. So yesterday, when they pitted George, a second time for the set of soft tires was them directly going against their policy, and that in itself needs to be, we're gonna, that's where questions needs to be asked now is, why did you go against your own policy there? Because you've given George an unfair advantage over Lewis. Why? You know what I mean? But overall, I think the team, I think it's probably the best. I don't know. People are going to say it's probably Red Bull, but I think it's probably the best run team on the grid, in the sense of it's how it treats each driver. It's fair between them. There's never a situation where you find they bring an upgrade to the track and only one driver gets it and the other one gets it 2 weeks later. It's always, if we don't have a full set for both drivers, then no one gets it, because we don't want to give one person an unfair advantage. But as I say, I don't think they should go ahead. They should, do anything different and try and propel George further up the grid simply because he's ahead in the standings. Because it's not like he's turning up every weekend and he's just spanking Lewis on pace. He genuinely is slower than Lewis. If you look at the times, he's now, what's the qualifying is 8.7 qualifying. But I think in race, it's now 9.6. Is it 9.6? I think it's 9.6 in George's favor. And you're talking about in those three of those 9 were again, actually it's 4, not even 3, 4. You're talking about oh God, where is it? Australia, Miami, Spa, and yesterday. So he has not really, if you look at head to head, when they've actually finished races and they've raced where there's been no issues between them, Lewis easily is ahead of him, easily. So they should just keep it as it is. And, they can't win anything this year. So what's the point trying to propel one guy further up the grid on purpose at the behest of the other one? So they should just keep it as is.
It's a good question. What you got? Something else you want to add to that, bro? Because nobody else got their hand up right now. So if you do, go ahead.
If I can.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I'd be like clocking in on my time though.
No.
I was just thinking. So obviously, regarding that question, I was just trying to think of it objectively. Now, I'm going to be very honest. I hadn't looked at the fine details, so that's really where I went wrong. I know for a fact that Lewis is fast, of course. The dude he's just got it in pocket, and I think just like he had said himself, I think the car just needs to be in the right place, and Mercedes has just been in a grey area this year. So I'm just hoping that the W14 really does it justice. You know, they have a solid platform to work from. But that's not the question, though. But I'll let you.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing is, in regards to where the W13 is a net effect of the budgetary restraints that's in place this year. And I've said it before. I think I said it in the week that had we been running on the previous years where there was no restraints on budgets or anything like that, Mercedes would have probably dug themselves out of this all already. You know, so, but they've come a long way. Let's be honest. They've made they've made massive steps forward compared to, you know, Bahrain. And now you look at the car now, it has a bit of porpoising, but not to the extent that we saw in the opening half of the season. The car, it looks like a Formula One car. It's starting to look like a Formula One car. Sure, it has it's still a bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on a Saturday, but on a Sunday, it's a different animal. And you hear yesterday Lewis said basically, you know what, the car felt great. It was the best it's felt all entire year. He was happy with it. And it tells you that what they've been saying all along, that the concept, there's potential in the concept, it's showing, it's manifesting right in front of our eyes. But people just keep looking at it like, no, they need to ditch it. But you're not looking at the numbers and you're not looking at the performance. You have to look from where they came from Bahrain to now, and see the progression. They've literally pulled away. Because remember, at one point in the season, you were thinking, can they make it into Q2? Can you make it into Q3? Can you beat a McLaren? Their competition at one point was Alfa Romeo. No, they're pretty much in the middle of nowhere when you look at in terms of the pecking order. But what you also will notice is they've actually moved closer to Ferrari than previously. They were much closer to Ferrari in performance now. And I think had Lewis not crashed out in Spa, I said he would have beaten Sainz to P3. I'm convinced he would have beaten him to P3. And yesterday, look, he held on to Sainz for that whole entire first stint. And that's
Lewis.
Yeah, but that was what protected Charles at the start. Had Lewis gotten past Sainz at the beginning of the race, he would have been up challenging Charles just the same, running him very hard. So the car has made progress. They've shown that the concept has potential, and they've qualifying. Lewis, I saw his interview after, I think it was the race, and he was like, coming into the last corner, he was 0.07 up on Max's pole time. And he said the only way, but he knew he was going to lose it because their straight line speed has been better than theirs. So to be ahead of Max at that point in qualifying tells you, given that a week ago they qualified 2 seconds off Max's Max's pole time. Like right. It was 1.8 for Lewis, and I think it was 2 seconds for George. So you qualified 2 seconds off Max, and a week later you were basically up on his pole time. Then the yellow flag came out. So you can see there's progress, and I think they're learning. And I've said it many times. I'm confident that next year they're going to have a much better package. Will it be a package good enough to win a championship? That we'll have to see. But I think it's going to be a package that's going to win races. It's going to be far more competitive than what they have this year, because they're learning. And you have the best guy in the game when it comes to providing feedback and leading and directing and say, yo, this is where we need to put it. This is what I need you to do. This is what I don't want you to do. We know they're going to get it right. Because last year they built it based off of, they had nothing to work with because It was a blank sheet of paper, nothing. So now they've got understanding. They've got, all this people complaining about all the data collecting they were doing. That's gonna pay off because given it was a fresh set of regulations, you can't go back and say, oh, we use this on the W11 and it worked. You can't use anything from that era in this car now because it's a different flow structure. Everything is different. So that database that they've been building from the start of the season, which they're still doing, it's going to give them all the necessary information that they can work with going forward. And I'm fairly confident because, again, these are the same guys that gave you 8 straight constructors title. It's not it's not like they don't know how to build quick cars. They know how to build quick cars. They know how to build championship winning cars. So if they have a bad season, okay, we just have to eat this season because Adrian Newey has built bad cars. It's not, no one's immune to it. He has built bad cars that just doesn't work. He's fortunate this year. And I tweeted it. I don't know. I keep tweeting all of these things. He's the only 2 people right now, with probably 3 that you can point to in Formula One right now that was around when the first set, when we last had ground effect cars. Adrian Newey, Pat Simmons, and Ross Brawn. Who formulated the regulations for this year?
Was it Braun?
Nope. Pat Simmons.
Pat
Simmons led the team of people who did the research to formulate the set of regulations we have this year, right? So these are the only, so the fact that Adrian Newey was, granted, this is Newey's first ever built Formula One ground effects Formula One car, because the only car he ever built ground effects wise for racing was in IndyCar. I can't remember which team. I think it's Newman. I can't remember. I think it's Newman or some other one of those Indy teams. He was in the States. He worked in the States and he built, and then he moved back to the UK and he got into Formula One. So he has that understanding and that experience already. Again, his thesis was on ground effects. So these regulations were perfect for him. Absolutely perfect, because he has all that knowledge that he could fall back on. And that's what gave them the advantage. Now you're gonna have, it's gonna be tough to claw back this Red Bull advantage, but is it impossible? No, because I think Mercedes has actually gained time on Red Bull. It's not massive chunks, but they've gained probably 1/10 or 2/10 performance on the Red Bull, because I'm sure the gap at one point was like, I don't know, from the start of the season was like 3/4 of a second. I think it's probably down to like 1/2 a second now. But that's in the race. On a Saturday, it's probably a bit bigger. So they have to work, and that is a result of the fact that Mercedes can't get the tires to work. And that's a massive, because most of your lap times, people don't realize most of your lap times you gain in Formula One comes from your tires. If you can get your tires in the right working window and get them to work consistently, you're going to find more time than if you have 50 more horsepower or 100 more horsepower, because again, you have to transfer that extra power through the tires. So if you can't get it through the tires, it's useless. It don't even matter. It's useless power. You know what I mean? So, but they'll get there. I'm confident they'll get there. Definitely.
We got Mary Beanie. You are up next. Go ahead, unmute your mic. I'm gonna lower your hand.
Hey, Thanos, how you doing?
What's going on? I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
If you remember, at the start of the season, I said on your space, I said they're going to screw Lewis. Do you remember?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
But did this really screw him, though? I mean...
yesterday, I never watched the last 3 laps of the race because I felt like I was just back in AD again. I actually felt I was still sitting in the seat. And I went, what the strategist did? I mean, what is Ron Meadows doing? That's what I want to know, because Toto in the interview, he's clearly moved on to next year's car. But I just want Lewis to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Meadows doesn't affect team strategy. He's the team manager, so I think he organizes things in the team. When it comes to strategy, it's more James Vowles, Shovlin, and the driver engineers. They all work together to do all of that. Maybe Meadows is involved, but did they screw Lewis last year? I don't know. I don't want to go down that line, because I don't think Mercedes as a team are deliberately trying to, do something that is going to negatively impact Lewis. I don't think they purposely set out. But we do need to ask that question: what happened yesterday? Because as I said, they've gone against their own policies, because they've clearly stated in the past that they won't give another driver an unfair advantage over the other. So if Lewis is on if Lewis is on the soft tires, they're not, and if Lewis is on a hard tire, they're not going to put you on a soft tires. And I think this came back as a result of Bahrain 2014, because you remember Bahrain 2014, Lewis was on the hard tires compared to Rosberg on the mediums. And we know that whole 3 years played out, and they kind of change up their rules of engagement. But I don't think I wouldn't go as far as say that they screwed him over. I don't think. What do they have to gain from that? Because we already know that George is basically their future plan. He's there, once Lewis steps aside, George, you're going to be the man now. So why are you going to purposely screw over the guy that's basically giving you, both of you have delivered, 8 world championships consecutively. Why are you going to do that now for a guy who's basically he's just an up and coming. He's learning. You know what I mean?
I mean, Paris, I can count in one hand, literally one hand, since 2006 that I've heard Lewis cursing on team radio. I can literally count in one hand.
Probably. Yeah, I get you, but it's not the first time we've. I've seen he's blown up on Mercedes.
No, I know. I remember the last time. I remember the last time.
I remember Monaco 2015.
Oh yeah.
I remember how irate he was.
Hold on, y'all. Behave, Dave. You up next? We're gonna let Thanos answer Mary's question, and Behave, Dave is up next. Go ahead, Thanos.
I remember Monaco 2015. What that mistake that cost him an easy race win. I remember even Monaco 2019 when they put him on the wrong tires and he was irate, about the whole thing. So, but I don't think they're they're setting him up to lose and in favor of George, because again, if you look at the races where they've had an opportunity to win, though it wasn't a massive opportunity, but it was a chance. Who was at the fore? It was Lewis. And why were they in that position? Because Lewis drove them into that position.
Yeah, I think I don't know. So one last point, Farah. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Do you think? I think Lewis should take control of his own strategy, because he's done it in the past and it has worked 9 times out of 10.
But
what do you think?
I think what he needs to be. I think he probably just needs to ask more questions. He needs them to be. I think there needs to be a bit better communication, especially between him and Bono. More than anything else, they need to, keep him up to date with situations and so forth. Just communicate better, because I think yesterday's incident, because Bono seemed surprised when George pitted, because I don't think he thought they were going to pit. So I don't know. I don't think he actually knows what happened, but there needs to be better communication. The communication could be better between him and Bono. But did they translate? Nah, I don't think so. I think again, like we saw in Hungary, the safety car was what basically took his opportunity. Again, same thing in Silverstone. The safety car took away any opportunities he had actually driven himself into, to try and win the race. Because I think had the safety car not come out yesterday, by the time Max had pitted, Lewis would have probably gotten that gap down to under 10 seconds. So Max would need to have it was an 18-second pit stop loss. So Max would have needed to cover. He obviously would have fallen behind George. So he would have needed to cover, 10 seconds, 10, 12 seconds to win the race. Lewis might have been hanging on in the end, but at least, it was a chance, but that took it away from the safety car, took it away from him. And it's just one of them things that was, I understand the frustration. Yes, I was a bit pissed off. I didn't even really care about the whole pit stop situation, because I was like, yo, from the safety car came out, I was my hopes just died, because I'm like, yeah, shit, we had a chance, and that was it. Our chance went away, because there was no others. Mercedes were never going to beat Red Bull on pace. They couldn't have mirrored a Red Bull strategy and beat them on pace, because they just didn't have the pace to do that. So you had to go alternatively. You could only beat them by doing one stop less, or gain a performance edge by offsetting tires, like what they did with Perez, because Lewis was what, tires were 15 laps younger than Perez's, and that gave him the advantage. You just cruise up behind him and just drive past him. So, but it's just one of them things. I don't think Mercedes are out to get Lewis.
Yeah, they're not out to kill Lewis.
I wish people would just stop saying that. It just seems like they're having a bad season at the moment, and not because they're having a bad season. I mean, and Lewis seems to be on the receiving end of certain things, and it doesn't mean that they're thinking, yeah, Lewis, whatever, we don't longer care about you. We don't love you no more. George is now the apple of our eyes. No, I don't get that.
All right, behave, Dave. You got your hand up, bro. Go ahead, drop your mic. What you got?
Hey, fans, how you doing?
Hey,
you
what's
all right?
happening, man? You good?
Yeah, not too bad. Right, my biggest bugbear this weekend and last weekend, AlphaTauri. The FIA need to step in, and somehow, I know it'd be messy with contracts, etc., etc. No other championship or league in the world has two teams competing in the same league or championship.
True.
They are able to I just personally thought I saw it more on the racetrack, but as you just mentioned earlier, I didn't even think about the politics game outside.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've served the purpose to Red Bull as well. So they took on the Honda engine first. Yep. So they served it on that. So they haven't got that problem anymore because they're building their own engines.
Well, they're not building any engines. They're not. They've actually what they've actually done. The contract they signed with Honda is that the Honda's people would be basically maintaining the power units.
What I'm trying to say is, when Red Bull powertrains gets fully up and operational, that they've used AlphaTauri as a try before you buy, pretty much, to see if it could work with them. That purpose is gone. Now their Red Bull Junior program is dying. I mean, it's cemented it yesterday when they're not even going to. It doesn't seem like they're going to promote any of the youngers out of F2, and they're trying to get Colton Herta in now. So, one, I don't see a need for him there, and secondly, it's just yesterday's incident, rightfully or wrongfully, what happened. But they're always going to get labelled with that brush. They'll never target it because it's two completely different teams, and it'll be swept under the rug which way or whatever if it did illegally happen. But it's just such a conflict of interest, as you said, politically, and for me as on the track, because in any sport, any racing, you can literally just cause safety cars. I mean, it's more prominent in F1 because you can change tyres under safety cars. So just want to get your point on that. I mean, I know I kind of know what you're probably going to say anyway, but I just tried to give it a different angle because no other championship in the world or league has that conflict of interest. They're just the governing body does not allow it. So, and then you got Andretti not being allowed in. It's just crazy.
Okay. I've got opinions on
what you got on that.
I've got opinions on the whole Andretti thing, but in regards to the AlphaTauri Red Bull thing, it's what we were talking about earlier. It shouldn't be allowed whereby they're being owned by the same team. People can say, well, because AlphaTauri is based in Italy, and obviously Red Bull is at Milton Keynes, but at the same time, I believe they both use the same wind tunnel. So the idea that, there's no sharing they don't share data is kind of like, yeah, whatever. don't give me that. You're talking about they use the same power unit, the same wind tunnel. I think they use the same gearbox, suspension, and everything. So the idea that they somehow don't share data,
it's a bit like the Ferrari Haas scenario where I believe AlphaTauri buy every single part they can. I think apart from a couple off the shelf, everything is off the Red Bull that they can buy, and it's exactly the same with Haas and Ferrari. But
I think they buy the gear. I think they get the gearbox, suspension, the what else? They get a few things from Red Bull, and I get so. People who think that somehow they can't be colluding with each other to make the Red Bull better, it's kind of like, don't be naive, man. This is sport. There's ways and means these things can be done. Don't act stupid. It's possible, So, but I do agree, and it's something I've always said. I've said for years that it shouldn't be allowed that the parent company for AlphaTauri is also Red Bull, who's in the same goddamn league, because they can influence outcomes of events.
Well, last year, for instance, I mean, I am a massive Hamilton fan, so I'm going to be ultra biased here, but I don't really care. Last year was the biggest example of why they shouldn't be in the sport. Anytime Lewis or Bottas, any Merc, got behind an AlphaTauri, it was defend for your life.
Yep.
As soon as Max come up, and I don't disagree with this, Max is allowed to sail right by, but that's just not sport fairness, which obviously we know is not really that fair after everything last year. But it just, how the hell does that sit right as a championship when you've got two drivers, like last weekend, just got out of the way just so he can get an easier start?
I think the only way that situation would change is unless the teams within the sport complain about it. Because I tweeted yesterday that a couple of years ago, it was rumored that Williams could become a Mercedes B team. And all the teams that were ahead of Williams in the championship, the Haas, the Alpine, and all these teams who were able to score points ahead of Williams were against such ideas, because they realized a partnership with Mercedes would basically bring Williams back into contention, and basically, because again, points is money in Formula One, especially for the constructors. Points is money, so they view that as a problem, because that then could could see Williams taking the points off them and getting the money that they should be getting. So you see, so teams when it affects their interests, they'll go ahead and say something. But I guess it depends on who the other party is involved in the situation, because why would you be annoyed with Mercedes looking to take on someone as a B team when you've got Haas, who's a B team to basically a B team to Ferrari. Ferrari basically having links with Alfa Romeo, what's that? Red Bull, AlphaTauri. So it's part of the game, but the Red Bull AlphaTauri link, it's just too close. It is just too close.
I think the problem with AlphaTauri is, yes, you've got Haas that will employ a Ferrari junior in mix, but with AlphaTauri, they've always had two. They've always had two Red Bull junior drivers. Yeah, because they're not going to upset the main team, are they? So
because that's how the team is set up. The team is set up to be the AlphaTauri, their B team, is basically a feeder series for feeder series. You know what I mean? That's where they put drivers and to test them out first before saying, okay, you can be moved up into the mother team. If you look at it, the only, I think, drivers who have driven for Red Bull who have previously not gone through their driver academy or had any previous affiliation to them, I believe was DC, Weber, and now Checo. But don't quote me on the DC Weber thing. I think I'm fairly correct in saying neither of these guys had any affiliation.
I think
because DC drove for McLaren, and then he went to, he drove for Williams, he drove for McLaren. I can't remember who else he drove for. When he left McLaren, he went to Red Bull. And you had the same thing with Webber. Webber drove for Minardi. I think he was at Jaguar, because Jaguar then became Red Bull.
Yeah, it was Jaguar.
So outside of that, those are the only three guys that's never really gone through the Red Bull whole program thing. So that's what the AlphaTauri is there for. It's just there to, to assess the drivers in the young driver program to see whether or not they're good enough to be moved to the mother team. Because you had who moved? You had Ricciardo moved up, Kvyat, Albon, Gasly. All of these guys drove for them. I think the ones who didn't move are like Jaime Alguersuari. I think Sebastian Bourdais. I'm trying to remember if he drove for, or he just drove for the Toro Rosso.
He drove for the Toro Rosso.
Yeah, he didn't drive for the main team.
I see you.
I just think it's too easy to use AlphaTauri as a shield, whether it's, like you say, in the paddock.
Yeah, because the thing, and as I said, my issue with it more than anything else is they can use them to affect the outcome of races, and that's what, and they can command, they can say to them, look, hold Lewis up, and I think that in itself is unfair. That team, if they feel like they want to hold Lewis up, that should be their decision to make. It shouldn't be influenced by anyone. And that's where my concern is. And that's where they probably need to look into it and say, well, we can't have this, we have to separate. You have to be totally independent. You can't be providing AlphaTauri the budget every year and so on and so on. So that needs to cut. But you also mentioned about Andretti not being able to come into Formula a lot.
Hold on, Thanos, before you hit that point. Mary, I see you with your hand up. I'm going to let you get the last one. Thanos definitely about to make a bombshell on this one. Go ahead.
Look, I understand the whole furore and hoopla and excitement around Andretti. It's a big name. It's a popular name in motorsport. I mean, hell, he was an F1 world champion. His sons drove in Formula One and all of that. So we understand the history. But at the end of the day, Formula One shouldn't be a sport where anybody just can come in just because you have a name. Right. That's not how it works. Again, it's the pinnacle of motorsport. It should be something that if you're going to come in, it should be hard as hell for you to get into the door. It's like saying, oh, because I play in the Premier League, I should be allowed into the Champions League. I don't care. You probably don't follow football, but I'm sure you probably do, Dave. So it's like saying Aston Villa. I believe Aston Villa has won the Champions League. Nottingham Forest has won the Champions League before, right? So it's like saying, oh, because we're Nottingham Forest, because we won the Champions League, we should be allowed to play in the Champions League again because we have a big name, we have a history. But that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a difficult thing to get into, and not because they have that name. And you have to remember, more doesn't mean good. Doesn't always mean good. People always talking about we should have more cars. Doesn't mean the product is going to be good. You know what I mean? I think what we have now, what I'd say is we need one more team. 11 teams, 22 cars on the grid. I think that would be perfect. Even though I think 20 right now is perfectly fine. But just have one more team. But in saying that, you bring an 11th team in into the mix, that also dilutes the money pot. And that's what these teams are looking at. They're thinking, well, if we're getting 100 mil, right? And it's already, it's what? We have $1 billion to split. So every team gets 100 mil. But if you bring an 11th team in and there's no change to that £1 billion prize fund, we're going to have to split that now 11 ways. So we're making a loss to accommodate a third team. We can't do that. Nobody in sports, it's about winning, and it's also about the bottom line. It's what the balance sheet says at the end of the year. They don't want that figure to be affected by, that prize money they're getting to be affected by an 11th team coming in. And that's where they put because I believe the 200 million is what they call I think it's the anti-dilution fee, but 200 million isn't enough. for these guys, because again, that's 20 million each you're going to give one of these teams, right? So, okay, you get them 20 million this year, but then over the period of time, you're still going to have to dilute the pot by 11 for this 11th team,
right?
And you're going to be doing that continuously going forward. But that 20 million is just a one-off payment. What about next year? We're still going to be down. If it's 24 million, we're going to lose. So we're at a loss of 4 million already, because you only gave us 20 million. But next year we're going to lose 24 million. So we're at a 4 million pound deficit.
Right.
And then we're going to be, and then the following year, we're going to be at a 24 million pound deficit. You know, if you see what I'm trying to say. So that's what the teams are basically against. And everybody tries, you know, they're making it look as if it's a Mercedes don't want Andretti in the sport, right? It's not Mercedes that doesn't want, and 8 other teams rejected them from entering the sport. But because Toto Wolff is the only one who's willing to come on and say, yo, XYZ, what? They're the ones that being viewed as, oh, you know what, Mercedes are scared of Andretti. And I said, I don't know which space I was in. And I said, look, I guarantee you put Andretti Motorsports in F1, they're gonna struggle to beat even Haas, because they're gonna realize how tough or difficult Formula One is. It's not something you're just gonna come in and you're just gonna get immediate success. You're gonna be in for a hell of a long struggle just to get up to midfield. So while saying bring Andretti in, okay, you're bringing them in as a name, but are they going to make the sport any better? Are they going to make the product any better outside of just bringing a new set of fans? So
that's true. So I got. Listen, I know 2 people just put their hands up, but Mary's going to have the last question. She has been waiting. Then I got to go do a piñata party. So Mary,
you're going to have to be a Perez.
Yeah. So Mary, go ahead. Cut your mic. I'm gonna lower your hand. You got the last question. Make it happen.
I don't know about you, Banas, but I think the Porsche deal was just fake, but until they were able to announce the Audi deal.
No, I don't think it's fake. I think it's. I think it was a legit. I think it was a legit thing, because again, they had to, you know, the VAG group had to sign off on it. And they literally signed off on both Porsche and Audi. Audi's already confirmed they're coming in as an engine supplier. The thing is, there was a video done by Scott Mitchell. It's on YouTube, where he just talks about, you know, why the deal, the possibility of why the deal's going to fall through. And it's simply because the likes of Helmut, Christian, and Adrian Newey doesn't want to give up any. They don't want Porsche to come in and have any say in how the team is run, which is kind of odd, because if I'm buying 50% of a company, you can't tell me I don't have a say. Are you mad? I'm putting my money into the pot, and you're going to come and tell me I can't have a say in how the business is run. You don't. No, that's not how it works. If I own 50%, I get 50%. I have 50% of the decision-making rights. You know what I mean? And they don't. And it seems like they don't want to give that power up, because my guy, what's his Matishe? If you go on YouTube, you find a video. Matishe is looking to dip.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because in the video, Scott Mitchell says, you know, once he sells the company, he's basically going to sell the whole thing to the other, because it's part owned with a Thai business company.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to take full ownership of it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want that. They don't want Porsche to come in and you know have a say in how the team. Because again, Porsche should have to come in, because Porsche has a brand to protect. And Red Bull in the last couple of years have been linked with some very like shady, you know, some really, you know, we heard about the CEO who was fired over some diversity and inclusion thing. I can't remember what it was. You have the whole
2 of them in the States. 2 of them got fired.
You have the whole thing with the whole racism within the team and all of these things. Porsche cannot afford that to affect its brand, because at the end of the day, these things affect share prices. And that's what they look at. Again, it always comes down to the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know this person, Thanos. I've had to tell him about 4 times. Anik, you know Anik.
Yeah, no, Anik.
Yeah,
don't pay
he says, oh my God, he says, oh, Lewis needs to go to Ferrari. I'm like, Anik, get real, man.
Don't look, man. Don't look, Mary. Don't pay Anik any mind. Anik is just trying to just stir people up. I don't think he's just saying it in jest just to get a reaction out of people. Just ignore Anik, man. If he comes to you and talk about Mercedes hasn't won this year, just tell him it's 164 months since Ferrari won a championship.
Yeah,
he has nothing to talk about, man.
Or I'll say to him about Sainz's pit stop. Okay, that's classic.
Yeah, don't pay Anik.
I got something for you, Thanos, real quick, and then we gonna close it out. Thanos, by way of Dario, he asked, and then we're gonna edit out. What do you think about Charles Leclerc and George Russell 2026? Now, of course, this is given like Hamilton's not there. I'm gonna put that there. He didn't put it in there, but I'm gonna put it there. Charles Leclerc, Russell 2026, and with that, do you see Russell going forward, possibly being the face of Formula One?
All right, the George Russell Charles thing. If Charles gets frustrated with Ferrari, I can see him wanting to leave, because I had this conversation I think last week. I think it was a Friday or Saturday. I had one in space, and we had this conversation. I was like, look, I can see Charles Leclerc. What's going to happen is, how the relationship is going to fall apart with him and Ferraris. Who's going to get fed up first? Right. Who's going to get frustrated first? Because currently Charles is making some silly mistakes. And once he sorts the thing out, as I keep saying, once he sort that thing out between his ears, he's good. Because you don't have to worry about Charles' pace, because he has that in abundance. He has the racecraft. It's about fixing this. Once he gets this right, he's good. But what happens if he gets that right and Ferrari is still being Ferrari? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's gonna be like, yo, I want to win championship. And especially if he sees if Mercedes gets it right and he sees George winning championships, Max winning championships, he's gonna be like, yo, Ferrari, I've signed the longest contract in your history, and nothing. You keep giving me dud cars after dud car. First, I was a problem first, and I've sought myself out. But you keep giving me he's going to look to dip. But again, it's like the Lando Norris situation thing with me that I keep using as an example. Why are you signing these long-term contracts, right? When Lewis Hamilton is 37 years old, he's not going to be going on forever. You should be looking as a young driver like, yo, why not? Lewis might be going soon. Let me keep myself on the market. So if Lewis dips and Mercedes are like, yo, we need someone to come in, I'm on the market. You can say, all right, then. Hey, Toto, look, I'm free. You want to give me a drive? Yeah. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. But by signing these contracts, he's tied himself long-term into Ferrari. And as I say, if he starts saying, George Russell and Max keep winning races and championship, and he's not in that position to do it, he's going to get frustrated and he's going to want to leave. So to Mercedes 2026, it's still a possibility. But the problem for him now is, outside of the long contract, is if Lewis leaves in 2024, right? He's gonna have to pray that whoever comes into the Mercedes seat is on a Bottas type contract. Is on a one year contract. So when his contract ups at Ferrari, he can say, well, you know what, I'm gonna make a play for a Mercedes seat, because I don't think Mercedes are gonna buy any driver out of their contract, right? Because it's gonna be too much money. Like I said, I use the Lando example. If Lando is on 20 million a year over 3 years, right? And Lewis decides 2023 is his last year. So they want to go at Lando. They're not going to buy the remainder contract, 40 million, and then pay Lando 20 million, pay Lando 15, 20 million. Lando is not worth me paying 55, 60 million to get him into my car. Hell no. I'm not paying that sort of money. Why? So so they're probably going to go out there and look for who's the next best available who's free, who's at a cheaper price.
Right.
And will come in and do a job for Mercedes. But look, Charles to Mercedes in 2026, I rule nothing out, because again, it's going to come down, the Ferrari relationship is going to make or break depending on who gets frustrated first. Because I'm telling you right now, Charles at this present moment, he's frustrated as hell with Ferrari. I can tell you that for certain, because he just watched a 40-point lead go from 40-point lead to now being 110 points behind in 10 races. He's pissed. You cannot tell me that man is not pissed. You see what I mean? So he's gonna, if push comes to shove and he needs to dip, he's gonna dip, and if the Mercedes seat is there for him to jump into, take it. Take it. That's all I'm gonna say. Take it.
This is what I want to do. I really do appreciate everybody coming to the Wolves Den. Don't click off just yet. I know Musa had his hand up. Just wait a second. I'm gonna give y'all an opportunity, but it's fully gonna be up to Thanos. So as far as the official Wolves Den for the recording, everybody to participate with video and audio, it will be on YouTube. Anybody who wants to next time, consider that. It's just my opportunity to give everybody a chance to see the fam. Thanos, as always, bro, we really always appreciate you coming.
Respect,
part of the
man.
fam we'll be looking for later on in the season, because I'm pretty sure you're going to have many other perspectives. So at this point in time, appreciate everybody joining. Peace. Thanks for watching another episode of Wolfpack Performance. Don't forget to check out some of my other content on Formula One and motorsports topics. Like, share, subscribe, and we go live on the weekends. See you soon.